Yo, what is up guys, Bob87 King here, back again with another video, and for my 100th video of the channel, I will be talking about Total Drama All-Stars, which is a season that, yeah, it sucks. Just literally look up the season and you'll find more people just talking about how the season sucks, why it sucks, and how they could change it, and in this video we'll be pretty much grading it, similar to the Disadventure Camp Season 2 video, to where we'll just be giving it a grade out of 10 and really just me analyzing the season and pretty much just me talking about why I hate the season overall. And yeah, All Stars was a season that I didn't hate at first when I first watched it and I wasn't really into the fandom looking in. I thought the season was pretty okay. Not as good as Revenge, obviously, but I thought there were some decent moments, but definitely on the rewatches, it is not great. And even in my recent rewatch, I hated it even more, to where this is the only season of Total Drama that I would truly consider a bad season. I think it was poorly written, I think it was poorly handled, and what was a great concept ended up being the worst season of the show. So yeah, let's just talk about the host first and give it a grade out of 10. If I didn't mention it in my intro, I'll be talking about certain categories of the season and giving it just a grade out of 10. And Chris and Chef as hosts, I just feel like they're both pretty much... They're pretty bad in my opinion. Chef doesn't really talk throughout the season, and I know he isn't really a main host, but he kind of is like the secondary host of the show. And Chris was just more or less more crazy. But unlike in Revenge, where sometimes... nah, actually, now that I think about it, Revenge Chris was also pretty bad. And All Stars does have a notable moment of him just saying, "Why is this taking so long?" which was funny. But outside of that, we just get a lot of dickish Chris moments, and we get confirmation that he did a fuck up plant, so... yeah, there's that. Overall, these two just did not make good TV, and overall, their dynamic it just sucked. So yeah, honestly, Chris and Chef, they get a 2 out of 10. Okay, this is going to be the longest part of the video, but I'm going to be talking about the cast. But before I talk about everyone individually, I'll just be talking about my overall opinions about the cast, and to be honest, I don't have a problem with this cast at all, to be honest. While obviously it's not ideal to have like 7 people from Revenge, obviously because they only had one season, and the Generation 1 cast had a lot more memorable characters, I do still feel like the cast that they picked could have made for a top tier season, and obviously as we saw, the dynamics were pretty interesting, but due to the poor writing, they just made the characters completely insufferable. Everyone either got derailed, nerfed, or just didn't really have much to do on the season overall. And yeah, so let's just talk about the overall cast, starting off with Lindsay. To be honest, I already think Lindsay was at a decline starting off in World Tour, to where she wasn't really the greatest in that season and she was already being dumped down once again. And All Stars just kind of pretty much flanderized Lindsay to the max, and honestly, Lindsay was just really dumb. And honestly, I was pretty happy that she was the first boot. She didn't really do anything for the show, so yeah. Lightning was kind of the same though, just like in Revenge of the Island. He was still kind of dumb, but honestly, he was the best part of the season. He is my all-time favorite character, at least in All-Stars, to where the fact that the second boot is someone who really didn't have that much alliance was the best part of the season is kind of a sign to tell, to where I started to be more and more annoyed. The more and more I think about Joe, I start to realize that she really could have been one of the better characters of all time in Total Drama, especially post Generation 1, to where she could have had this awesome rivalry with Heather, and you know, her kind of going toe-to-toe with Heather and kind of going toe-to-toe with Alejandro to an extent. It really could have been great to see Joe make it a lot further on the season, especially knowing what would happen to the later characters who would get even more derailed. But honestly, she was okay, but really, really annoying with her plot of just wanting to be team captain. And she got Lightning way too early, so I'm kind of mad at her for that. But overall, she was, I guess, fine. Unlike all the 100 videos about fixing Total Drama All-Stars, I don't actually have a problem with Sam being casted, especially over Owen, someone who is very insufferable in action and World Tour, to where Owen's only season was really Island, that he was really truly peaking, to where it's like, is Owen really an all-star? But then again, I don't want to get into that debate. But honestly, Sam was okay, I guess. He was really just a punching bag, but it was just kind of not funny, to where he didn't even have that much lines. It was just bad things would happen to him, and then we just watch. I don't know what else to say to that. Heather was... she was okay. I don't really have much to say about her as a character. I'll talk about her dumb move by, like, hiding the idol, but I don't really think it's that dumb. Again, she wanted to keep it a secret, and, like, she doesn't even really have that much. I mean, she does have pockets, but it's like obviously people are gonna see through it, so it's like, yeah, obviously I don't really have much to say about Heather. She was just kind of nerfed. No. Even though I'm a massive Duncan fan, I cannot deny I wouldn't have been mad if Duncan was like one of the first few buttes of the season, because he really doesn't have nothing to do on this season. I mean, his biggest storyline is him trying to be bad, but it's like, to me, Duncan was never really a bad guy. He was more or less just kind of a dick, and I don't know. It just kind of sucked to see Duncan really have nothing to do on the season, and even his storyline with Mal truly just goes nowhere. One of the biggest flaws, in my opinion, about having 13 episodes and not being able to utilize it correctly. But then again, Revenge of the Island did it great. 2023 did it great. All Stars writing just kind of sucked, and Ed McDonald kind of ruined Guankin. But then again, I'm not really the biggest Guankin stan in the world, so it's like, whatever. But I feel like they could have had a better breakup to where it could have caused more drama or whatever, so yeah. Oh my god, Cameron was derailed this season. I never really understood why so much people hated Cameron in All-Stars, especially when I first watched it, because I thought he was just like okay, but oh my god is he unbearable on the rewatch, because he's just so whiny. All he does is just pretty much complain, and the one interesting thing about his relationship with Gwen was just kind of okay. Outside of that, he was either just complaining or just with Sierra, someone who I very much dislike. So yeah, overall Cameron just kind of sucked on the season. He didn't really do anything. Once again, similar to Duncan, I wouldn't have been mad if Alejandro... Actually, yeah, I actually wouldn't have been mad if Alejandro got an early boot on the season, just because it would have been a nice, like, early blindside to see, like, one of the best players go home, especially since he really has nothing to do once Heather is eliminated. And to be honest, All-Stars is just a really bad season for Alejandro. Also, he really just gets nerfed. He gets nerfed completely. I wouldn't say derailed, but he really does get nerfed. I forgot to mention this for Alejandro, but when did Courtney and Alejandro kiss? That just felt like a weird continuity point, and Ed McDonald did not do his research, and I think Ed McDonald truly just sucks at writing total drama to where his continuity is terrible, but I don't really want to drag on him too much. He already got fired from the show, so we won't be seeing him again. But Courtney overall was just a okay character on the season. She had a bad first half to where she was just pretty annoying. She was okay at the middle half, but then once Sunday Money Sunday rolls around, it really just completely ruins her character. To where, once again, she's insufferable and annoying to deal with. And honestly, Sunday Money Sunday, I always viewed it as a, not okay, but like not as bad as people claim. But when I went to like just view some of the clips, it's definitely not a great episode overall. So yeah, but overall I just feel like Courtney just had nothing really that much important. Oh, she did have a role to fill, and she did kind of fill with her relationship with Gwen, but it just gets completely ruined at the later end. You know what, this might be a massive hot take, but I wouldn't have mind if Gwen won the season, considering how much I truly do not really care for the winners of the season. Because here's the thing, Gwen does have kind of an arc, or at least what you would call an arc in All Stars. Like, she does have an arc. She comes back for Courtney, she gets her friendship back, she breaks up with Duncan, and all this type of stuff, and she builds relationships with Cameron, Zoe, and she's not completely annoying, so there's that. Obviously, she's still not great. She's not what she was in Island, but honestly, she was at least okay. She wasn't, like, entertaining, but she was still okay. Okay is the best word to describe Gwen in the season, but I feel like it would have been an okay conclusion had Gwen become the first two-time winner of the show. Obviously, she kind of lost an Island. I feel like that's canon. So it would have made a lot of sense for Gwen to have won the season. And to be honest, I wouldn't have actually mind that. Obviously, Gwen and Courtney's friendship ends, but that's mainly due to Courtney's fault. And honestly, she would overcome Mal. Honestly, Gwen was just an okay character, and she would have been an okay finalist for the show. To be honest, Scott was a character that, to be honest, as a kid, I really did like in All-Stars, considering how much I hated him or revenge for what he did to Mike, and him pretty much using the fact that Mike has a mental illness against him. That it isn't great to watch. But overall, as a kid, I really did enjoy Scott. I found him to be probably the best character of All-Stars. But oh my god, when I went to rewatch All-Stars, it was not great. I don't like this version of Scott. I feel like him in Revenge was so much better. He was so much more snarky. And obviously he had his goofy moments, but I feel like in Revenge it was still balanced out. But in All-Stars they just completely crank it up to like a full time, to where he's just completely incompetent throughout the entire season. So yeah, overall Scott was just pretty pretty bad in my opinion. I think his relationship with Courtney was entertaining though. I feel like it would have been better if it was Revenge Scott though. To where Revenge Scott and Courtney would have been an actual, probably better ship. But what can you really do? I'll talk about Mike once we get to the winner portion of the video, but the fact that I considered Zoe, the person who's actually in the game throughout the entire season, to be the runner-up of season against a guy who literally wasn't even there for pretty much the majority of the merch section of the game is kind of crazy, and that's just indicative of how badly they messed up Zoe. Again, Zoe was never the most interesting character until she turned into Commando Zoe, but that completely just faded away in All-Stars. And honestly, on the season, she's just completely fucking blind throughout the entire season, just being the main character, but without any substance to her at all, to where it's just really irritating to just watch her play, and also really boring as well. She's just not a great character, and to be honest, became one of my all-time least favorite characters, especially characters who aren't just throwaways like the vegans or whatever. But yeah, Zoe just completely sucked this season, and I'm pretty content with her being the runner-up. Overall, this cast is just insanely lackluster, to where there could have been so much goodness from this cast, to where we could have seen rivalry between Joe and Heather, which we did see, but a much better thought out rivalry instead of just them fighting over team captain. Zoe making it too far, Mike making it too far, which we'll talk about later. Cameron making it too far, Sierra even being on the cast is questionable, Sam being on the cast is questionable, even though I would have preferred him to stay over Owen, but you could have swapped him out for Brick to give Joe some more storylines, to where Joe really could have been a great character on All-Stars, and that could have propelled her to be maybe in my all-time favorites, but who really knows. Lightning was great though, but to be honest, yeah, this cast was just really lackluster with really terrible writing, so yeah, this cast gets, I'm feeling a solid 3 out of 10, 3 out of 10. What a shocker, guess what? The couples are also pretty mediocre throughout the season. First off, let's just talk about Alla Hazard, the best part of World Tour, which ends up being pretty much the most boringest couple of the season, really, to where I have the least to say about it. They were okay, but actually really boring, but it's just the fact that they're Heather and Alejandro just makes them the best couple here, really. They're pretty much just Peter and Lois from Family Guy. I mean, I have nothing else really to say. This couple doesn't have much substance outside of having a lot of funny moments. There are cute moments, but they're just like, Scott belongs to Dawn. That's all I'm going to say. Scott belongs to Dawn. And as for Courtney, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not really going to waste my time ranting about them. All I'm going to say is that they could have been really great and interesting, but yeah, they're boring. They're boring. For Duncan and Gwen, I mean, they broke up during the season and they weren't really even that great. But overall, yeah, the couples were definitely a portion of the season, but to be honest, they just weren't interesting, just like most of the season, to be honest, and they're kind of handled extremely poorly, and they're just overall pretty boring, so I'm gonna have to give it a 2 out of 10. You know, when I was younger watching the show, I thought I was really going to be excited that Mike was going to win the season because I actually did watch Unspoiled. And I'm imagining myself, like, watching the season live. And to be honest, I just wasn't really that excited that Mike won the season. I just didn't really care for the Mike/Mal storyline. And even though it is a cool concept in theory, the 13 episode limit really drags it down to where Mal just feels like an insanely cartoonish villain. And to be honest, I kind of regret putting Mal in my top 10 villains list. Overall, I'm just insanely low on Mike as a character as well. He's really boring. And why do I have him at the winner of the season? It's just because he's so boring and Zoe's just so actively bad. It's like, I would much rather prefer a boring character than an actively bad one. So it's like, yeah, there's that. Overall, Mike is a pretty bad winner for this show. I would much rather prefer Gwen had won the season, to be honest, but it's whatever, man. Mike gets a solid 1 out of 10. He wasn't even on the show. And overall, if you combine all the scores I gave All-Stars, the combined number is a 2 out of 10, which, yeah, this season's not that great, and to be honest, it's even worse if I were to rewatch it again. I really do not like this season. It's a pretty bad one, and yeah, now I'm going to go off with the channel to never talk about this season again unless I really have to for season rankings, which you can expect this season to be at the very bottom. So yeah, there's that. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's crazy that I made 100 videos on here, but yeah, I'm just I'm planning to make more, obviously. So yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow. Yeah, peace out.